go ahead and power down the phone if you haven't powered it down yet. Make sure it's completely off. Now near the charging port, locate the 2 pentalobe screws and use the pentalobe screwdriver to remove the 2 screws. If the screen is badly damaged, use a piece of packing tape to create a nice and smooth surface for the suction cup to get suction. Without the smooth surface, the suction cup won't be able to get grip and it won't work as intended. Place the suction cup as close as you can to the home button. Now go ahead and pick up the phone and pinch it from both sides with your fingers and tug on the suction cup as you see here. Now take the metallic prying tool or any sharp tool, you could use a utility knife if you had to, and just sneak it in right below the home button. Make sure to go really gently and slightly in, and then tilt it left to right to get the separation going. The screen is glued in around the edge with waterproof tape. Use the plastic pick to separate the screen once you got the crack going, because you don't want to scratch up the phone frame with the metallic tool. Now run down the pick on both sides. Something to note, make sure not to go too deeply in, because on the right side of the phone there are 2 cable connections that are extremely fragile. If you go too deep in, you can damage them. Once both sides are separated, go ahead and tilt the screen left to right to loosen up the top just a little bit. Now what you want to do is you want to take the plastic pick and try to separate the top portion. If that doesn't work out, go ahead and use the sharper one. Be careful, you can scratch up the frame here, so go really slow. Use the sharp metallic tool to make the separation up top and separate the tape. Now go ahead and just crack it open and it should fold out just like a book. There are 2 connections on the right side. You want to fold it out gently, you don't want to damage those connections. Okay, now we need to separate the phone from the screen. We'll start with the top camera connection cable. Go ahead and remove the shield that's secured with 3 Phillips head screws. Remove the 3 Phillips head screws as shown. And then you can gently lift up and move the shield out of the way. That will expose the camera connection. With a plastic prying tool, go ahead and just pop it up from underneath and it should come right out. Now go ahead and shift down to the second connection. That's guarded by a shield that's secured with 4 Phillips head screws. Go ahead and remove those 4 Phillips head screws. Make sure to keep the screw position when you lay them out, because they're different sizes. Now go ahead and remove the shield. With a plastic prying tool, go ahead and undo the LCD connection or the screen connection, and now go ahead and undo the digitizer ribbon cable. The screen is now separated. Now to remove the components from the screen, go ahead and locate the top of the screen and remove the 3 Phillips head screws that are securing the bracket that holds the ear speaker and the camera in place. With those 3 screws out of the way, go ahead and lift up and move the bracket to the side. Now go ahead and remove the 2 Phillips head screws that are securing the ear speaker to the screen. Now we can gently pry the camera over to the left side, lift it up and just push it over to the left, and then pick up the speaker. Here's what it looks like up close. When removing the camera, we want to go ahead and start up top near the ambient sensor. Go ahead and just gently pry underneath it. Be very careful when you're doing this, and just push it out of its socket first on the right side. Now go ahead with a plastic prying tool and push it out even further, and it should come loose just like that. That's one sensor. There's another one there, but we're gonna leave that in place for now. Go ahead with the metallic prying tool and get underneath, very carefully underneath the speaker connection portion of the camera cable. Remember, this is all one cable, so just be very careful when you're undoing these parts one by one. They're slightly glued onto the screen. Now on the left side, this is very important that you don't come in from the bottom, you come in from the top, and just pry that in a little bit, like 1 millimeter at a time. That should come right out, and that's it. It's loose now. Next, we're going to need to remove the second sensor. That's the last one right there that the cable is attached on with. Go ahead and pry underneath it very gently, and it should come right out. That's it. That's loose. Here's what it looks like up close. Next, we'll need to transfer the home button. That's at the bottom of the screen. It's covered with a shield that's secured with 4 Y-tip screws. Go ahead and remove the 3 screws that surround the home button first. I'm going to leave that home button screw there for now. Now go ahead and gently remove the home button screw. This is very sensitive. You can damage the home button by pressing it too tight, so be very careful when removing that. Now you can gently lift up the shield and put it over to the side. With a plastic prying tool, go ahead and undo this ribbon cable connection. Be careful, the bottom of this connection is kind of loose. It's not attached to anything. So you want to separate that just like that, like you see here. Now you can lift up the digitizer portion of the connection. Then underneath, with your metallic prying tool, get underneath the home button cable and start working your way in underneath it and peeling it. Be very slow and very careful. If you damage the home button, it's basically game over, because this home button is attached to this specific phone from factory, and another one cannot be installed. Go ahead and just slide that from underneath, and it comes out just like that. Here's what it looks like up close. The last part we'll have to remove, and arguably is the most tedious, is the shield that guards the screen. It's secured with 6 tri-wing screws, and they're located on the side of the screen. There are 3 on each side. Go ahead and remove the 3 tri-wing or Y tip screws. With the screws removed, go ahead and start peeling the shield back. Remember, it's glued on the bottom, so go very slow. You don't want to tear it here. You just want to take your time and peel it right off slowly, and that's it. It comes out just like that. Reassembly. Lay the shield in on the new screen. You don't have to tuck it in under any cables or anything like that. Just lay it down, make sure it's aligned properly. Now go ahead and secure the 3 Y-tip screws on the left side, and then the 3 Y-tip screws on the right side. With those screws secure, go ahead and tuck the home button in underneath the screen. Just loop it right through and place it in the following orientation. Now you can just untug that little cable out of the way, the socket for the home button, and then make sure to mash the home button in using the residual glue. Flip it over, make sure it's aligned, nothing sticking out. Everything looks good. Okay, now go ahead and click in the ribbon cable for the home button, and then you can place the shield right over it in the following orientation. Then we'll secure it with the 4 Y-tip screws, the 3 screws first, and then lastly the home button screw. Make sure not to tighten that screw too tight, because it can interfere with the home button functionality, so just tight enough. Reinstalling the camera is a bit tricky and might seem intimidating at first. go ahead and fold the two sensors like you see here, with that little bit of padding. And then go ahead and tug them into their holes. Once you have them folded, it should go pretty easily in, right into their two little sockets there side by side. So tuck in the one on the left first, and just put it into the socket, and then the one on the right, and then just mash them both in, just like that. Now hold that down. Go ahead and place the speaker connection portion of the cable in, and align it with the two little guides that are there. Okay, make sure to mash in with the plastic prying tool and make sure that they're connected, and that's basically it. Now let's place the speaker back. Go ahead and align the little springs with the connections on the camera cable, and just put it into the socket and secure it with the two Phillips head screws on the bottom. With those secure, go ahead and fold the camera back over and tuck it into its socket. Now place the shield right over the camera and the speaker, and then secure it with the 3 Phillips head screws. Longer one in the middle, shorter one on the bottom, and then the slightly longer than the short on the left. Now let's reattach the screen to the phone. Go ahead and align it side by side. First secure the top, the camera portion, by aligning it up just like you see here, and then clicking it in. Make sure you get a nice and firm connection. You don't want this ribbon cable connected crooked, you want it nice and firm. Now go ahead and place the shield right over this connection, and then secure it with the 3 Phillips head screws. Now moving on to the bottom, go ahead and reconnect the digitizer first. Just align the ribbon cable with the socket, and then gently push it in. Make sure that you got a nice good click and feels firm and seated right in there. Once that's nice and firm, go ahead and reconnect the screen itself. Align that with the socket and press that in. Now go ahead and place the cover over both cables and secure it with the 4 Phillips head screws. The longest one goes right there on the right, the next longest goes next right there, and then the 2 shorter ones go on the top and bottom. And that's it. It's time to clamp up the phone. Clamping it up is very easy. Just close it up like a book, and then apply pressure on both sides simultaneously, and just keep going around and pushing it in ever slightly, and it should start clicking right in. Then go around the contour, clicking in and mashing in the rest of the gap. So just go around a couple of times, make sure it's nice and firm, and now it's time to place back the 2 pentalobe screws near the charging port. Go ahead and load the screws in to their sockets. Then with the screws loaded, go ahead and secure them with the pentalobe screwdriver, and that's it. Now we can go ahead and power on and test the phone.